Hey everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here making my 5 cards from the one kit from Simon Says Stamp, and this is for July 2019. This was a great kit, some really cute images with bees, some great pun type of sentiments to go with them. So this is a very universal style of kit to create many types of cards. So in the kit came a paper pad by Honeybee, and I took one of the papers, and it was this honeycomb, and it already, you can see it's already yellow, but it had these white outlines. So I'm just fussy cutting out a portion of it. Now, as I was fussy cutting, if you're looking at, okay, my fussy cutting's not straight and all of that, first of all, that's okay. We let that go. But one of the things that you could do, and what I did was I grabbed my fossilized amber. No, it's not vintage photo that we're going around the edge here, which would have looked awesome if we did that, just saying. But I'm using my Nuvo blending brush or blending sponge, and I'm just going around the edge. And then I'm going to go around the top of it. It will mute back those white lines. You'll still be able to tell it's a honeycomb. You'll still be able to see that, but that is one way to push that to the back. Now, I wouldn't have done that with the vintage photo. Okay, so we're going to use our double-sided foam tape to prop this panel up and put this on our standard A2 size card base, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and it is a top folding. All of my cards that I make today will be a standard A2 size. I'm going to stamp my sentiment down in the bottom right-hand corner, and I'm just going to make sure it stays down in that corner since I've already attached the honeycomb. Yeah. So I'm going to use my Simon Says Intense Black because this is Copic friendly, and I am going to be using 2 shades from my very minimal Copic collection. I'm actually going to use BG10 and BG11. Now, I'll have a card on my blog, a color chart card, because I did do the coloring and my fussy cutting offline just to save time, just to show how the card was constructed. There is some coloring, obviously, that I did keep in as I'm creating the cards once I have my images colored. So again, link for the blog down below. So I'm just doing the variegated look in the word B. It's great that that is, they're nice size letters, and you can either watercolor, use your alcohol markers, or your colored pencils, whichever you would want. I'm going to take this panel and I'm going to adhere it onto, again, that standard A2 size. Sorry about that. I thought I put that directly onto the card base, which you certainly can do. But that you can see that panel did cover my entire card base. Sometimes, even though I may have a heads up doing the voiceover, but sometimes I forget, obviously. So I'm going to add some embellishments using the sequins that came in the kit. And I'm just going to put them throughout in different areas just to accent around the sentiment and within the honeycomb. I am using my wax pencil, which it is, for me, it's the best tool to pick up sequins. It also picks up cardstocks. It picks up seed beads. It's an awesome pencil. So on to card number 2. So again, grabbing some of the paper, I'm going to do some die cutting. I've grabbed my hearts from my stash, and I've grabbed a stitch rectangle from my stash as well. So I'm going to die cut these images. And now I'm going to stamp my sentiment. The sentiment that I chose for this one is "We belong together." I do love the pun sentiments. I think they're really cute. So I'm going to use my Simon Says Stamp clear ink. And I made sure that I did prep it first with my EK powder tool so that I could try to keep the embossing powder to a minimum, going all over. It's me. I get it all over the place. It doesn't matter. It's just me. And you know what? I'm good with it. I'm going to heat up my heat tool. Make sure it's nice and hot. I always take it to the back first because in case it warps, it'll warp that way, and then by the time it's heated up, goes to the front, it kind of evens itself out, usually. I always use, to remove the powder, I've always just used one of my microfiber cloths, dry, and just wipe back and forth. Make sure it has cooled down. You will move the embossing powder if it has not cooled down. Yeah, they ask me how I know. And patience is not part of my thought process at all. So I layered up the two hearts. I have the black, I have the one with the stripes. I'll be setting the bees on top of that. I'm going to take this panel and I'm going to set it down onto my card base. That was cut 4 inches by 5 1/4. And now I'm going to prop up the hearts that are layered together just to give a little bit of dimension. And then I will take the sentiment and straddle that across the bottom of the hearts where the bees will be. Also, for the coloring that I did for my bees too, I will also have the color chart on my blog. I did use my Prismacolor alcohol markers. Not many colors though. Since these are such small images, I just used a couple of colors. So I'm going to add a couple of double-sided foam squares on each side, just so that it's even with the heart, since we have that propped up. And once that's set, I will pull out my sequins just to, again, add some embellishment to the card. And if you hear that noise in the background, it's my cat. He's having way too much fun on my table here. So once the sequins are in place, I always forget to make sure they're facing the right way. That's why I had to remove that one. I always like to place them upside down. That card is completed. So for card number 3, one of the things that I thought was absolutely adorable with this kit was the mommy to be sentiment. So I took one of the pattern papers, which was of course the wood background, and one of the little bees is really cute because it looks like the hands are down on the belly. So there's also this, I'm going to call it a fly line, a flyby line there, that's in the form of a heart with a little bee. So this just kind of reminded me, as the eyes are closed, hands on the belly, eyes are closed and dreaming. So a heart with the little bee. So that's how this card came about. Again, I kind of put all that was my thought process when it came to this. So this is very clean, very simple. So I stamped my images. Now I used the Simon Says fog for that image there, and I did stamp it like 3 or 4 times just so that it would be darker, but it will fade back lighter than what that is. So you can still see it. I'm looking at the card right now. You can still definitely see it, but I did want it to be like an image that she was thinking of. I'm going to prop up the little bee that I've colored and fussy cut already, and I'm going to set that right at the dot where it starts so that that image is just sitting behind her. I'm going to use my tape runner to adhere this onto my card base. And while I was setting it there, there was a lot of white going on, so I really wanted this to pop. So I just grabbed some cardstock from my stash and used, just cut a panel 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. The other panel, the wood panel, was cut 4 by 5 1/4. So there's just going to be this very faint border going around that. It'll help to frame it. And then I'm just going to trim up the side of my card because I can't fold straight. And that's okay. That's all we have to do. Just trim up the side. And that is that card. So for card number 4, I wanted to play with the deco foil. Now, with this foil, the beauty of it is you can use double-sided tape. And again, when you put these sheets down with the fancy side up, okay, not down, because again, glimmer's opposite. If you have the hot foil glimmer system, you put the fancy side down onto the plate. So here, this will work with double-sided tape. The glimmer foils will not, okay? So I placed, using my grid, I've placed them 1/4 of an inch apart, and now I'm just going to use my bone folder, or excuse me, my paper creaser, to set those in place, and then I'm going to use my tooling one to pull off the release paper, so to expose that stickiness. Now you can also use your glues that dry. I like the Quickie pen. I think they work the best. At least I find they work the best, but there are so many out there that will be just fine as well. What I did like about this pack of the deco foil sheets, they were each different. So here I'm showing you each of them, so you can see you can get this different rainbow look. And for me, this one had all of the choices. And you saw I almost did what I did with the glimmer. Yeah, fancy side down. Nope, fancy side up. Start at the corner, just let it fall down, and it will be flat. I use my finger to press this down. You could also trim around this, and in between some copy paper, run it through your die cutting machine if it's manual. I use the side of my paper creaser to push down, and you can see you get this beautiful rainbow effect. Now, don't throw that sheet away. Hold that, because you can actually place that onto a card as well. So that's the beauty of those. They're very flexible. You don't need to have a laminator sheet or a laminator machine. Just double side stick, whether it's tape, whether it's glue. You know what I'm curious about? I'm wondering if you could use like double-sided foam squares, place them around and see if that would work. I'd have to try that. I just thought of that. Okay, back to the card. So with all of this awesome rainbow, of course, let's add black to it. It's going to make it pop more. It's going to make it stand out. So I used the die that came in the kit, the honeycomb die, and I cut 3 of those out, and I was just playing with the placement. Now with this die, it cuts out the outline, and then you get the centers. So had to use the glue sponge. I have been looking at this for so long, and I've seen other people, make their own versions and all of that, but this looked really interesting. Yes, I'm sticking my finger right into that, and I did that a couple times. That's how I primed it. I do find it's best if you do store that upside down, so that the glue, when you open it, will always be to the top once you have it turned up. Just always make sure that your lid is securely in place. This will dry out. Absolutely. It worked perfectly. Yeah, really liked that. Just make sure you clean off your tweezers as well. Yes. I'm going to make sure my lid, as I said, is back on. And now I'm going to stamp my sentiment once they are in place. And I just chose the sentiment, "Be Beautiful." And that's going to go right in in between the lines off on the bottom right hand corner. I'm then going to come back in and set some of the black hexagons in their place. So it's almost like a geometric look that's going on with this. And I did use a stitch rectangle die. My Simon Says stitch rectangle dies after I got the foil on. So again, when I do that, if I'm making a panel and it's got the foil on it, if it's got blending on it, because again, I never go in order in which we should. I always forget or think, hey, this would look good. I always keep scraps of copy paper by my die cutting machine. Just make sure the inside's clean, and I just set my panel in there, because then if there's anything on my cutting plates, there's always something on my cutting plates, it won't go down onto my card design. So once I have those set in place, I'm going to grab my card base and I'm going to use my tape runner to set that down onto my standard A2 size. And that's all I did that. I didn't think we needed any more sequins. A little bright. So for the final card, I really fell in love with that pattern paper there. It has that watercolor effect. It's like a green-blue shade. And with this one, I think, you know, one of the things that I get asked is masculine cards. You know, a lot of us, you know, sometimes it is tough to create a masculine card. And sometimes for me, what makes a masculine card is the texture or the color. To me, that's what can make a masculine card for me. So my thought is, when it comes to these, even though they're bees and they're cute, you've got this one bee that's got glasses. So I think that's really cute. Not that glasses signify male. So not saying that. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure I'm going to hear that one. But in the kit, for the stamp set, there is a little bow tie. So I could have put a little bow tie on that little guy. But I think this one would be a good masculine style card. Would definitely work. Because the sentiment that I chose is, you're the bee's knees. So, I mean, it's another way to say, love you. I have one bee coming down, almost like looking up, and then I have what I am saying is my little boy bee is sitting up in the center, in the focal area. I did use the balance of the black solid hexagons that were die cut out from the previous card and set those in place. And this time I used the stamp that is in the stamp set of the honeycomb. So you have many choices. So, you know, if you really like the stamp set, what's really great with Simon Says is these items can be purchased individually. So again, the stamp set is called, or I'll have it linked down below if you are interested in that. So all of the components are really there. So that's what's fun when it comes to this kit. I will be propping up my bees using double-sided foam tape. And then once they're set, I will come in throughout the honeycomb that I've set in the different areas and set some sequins in the place of that. For when it came to these images, I did find that they were easy to fussy cut. I mean, even though they have the little tiny antennas, they weren't difficult. I am not a fussy cutter. I don't like fussy cutting, but I will. We've all been there. But I did find them to be easy. I will use my tape runner to put it on my standard A2 size card base, and then we'll dig into those sequins. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Allergies. They're horrible. So again, using my wax pencil to set my sequins in place. Again, these cards were fun to put together. Again, what I like is the sentiments. You can take these images and make multiple and different types of cards, from encouragement, from expecting mother, to telling someone, hey, you're my favorite. So I hope you enjoyed the 5 cards that I made from the Simon Says July 2019 card kit. As always, the products that I used will be listed down below in the video description. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those down below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending just a little bit of time with me today to watch my video. If you haven't already, I'd love for you to subscribe and make sure you ring the bell because you don't want to miss the next video that's coming. I hope everyone's having a great day. If you're in the heat wave, stay cool, but always remember what's most important. Always be creative.